Hi, I'm Gail.
And hi, I'm Catherine. Welcome to Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined, our award-winning weekly podcast, now in its sixth year. Visit womenover70.com to learn all about our offerings and ways to become involved. Consider visiting or joining Aging Reimagined Circle, and as a member, enjoy free participation in our online monthly programs. We want to thank our sponsor, Skintensive. As skin ages, it becomes more fragile and bruises easily, especially on the back of your hands or forearms. I'm loving Skintensive Bruise Cream, developed by Harvard-trained dermatologists specifically for mature skin. It gently moisturizes and helps bruises fade faster. Find it at skintensive.com. For 25% off, use the code capital W, capital O, 70. That stands for Women Over 70.
Today, we're really excited to introduce you to Jacqui Neurauter, who is 80. Movement is the thread that captures her life. Jacqui's journey has woven together diverse roles: professional recruiter, dancer, dance teacher, life coach, Feng Shui consultant, workshop presenter, and organizer, each reflecting her deep belief in the transformative power of movement. Today, Jacqui is dedicated to Hanna Somatic education, a gentle neuroscience-based approach that retrains the brain to release chronic muscle tension, relieve pain, and improve posture and mobility. She's passionate about busting the myth of aging, the teaching that we can restore the notion that growing older must mean physical decline, and demonstrates through her teaching that we can restore comfort, flexibility, and vitality at any age. Through somatics, Jacqui helps people uncover and free habitual patterns in their bodies, empowering them to move with greater ease and feel more alive. Jacqui's passion is simple yet profound, helping others rediscover the joy of movement, gain more vitality, and truly feel at home in their bodies. Learn more at Jacqui's website, harmoniouspathways.com. And we thank Karen Ross, episode 293, for introducing us to Jacqui. So welcome, Jacqui. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you so much for the privilege of being here and to share my story. I feel very blessed and honored. I know you've had many more prominent people than me on your podcast, but I'm excited to share with you my journey and highlights of it that might inspire others.
That's the whole idea. And I know you have plenty, because there's so much more to your story than what I've said here. So tell us how movement became such an important part of your life.
Yeah, movement. And also, I guess I have to say, as I was reflecting on this planning for today, curiosity is another important part of, my interest in lifelong learning.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, movement and moving the body. My body has been important, but it's all about movement and energy. But that sense that change is always happening in our lives, and how can we adapt and flow with that change as well? So movement started way back after I graduated from high school, and I decided to join the YMCA. So first came swimming. I didn't know how to swim, so I learned to swim. Then I joined water ballet and other types of swimming, and then exercise classes, and then yoga. Oh boy, yoga came along, and that was kind of exotic. And so I started, and I did yoga for decades and decades until recently, once I started the Hanna Somatics. But the meditation was also important to me. And then, lo and behold, belly dancing was offered at the YMCA. And a friend said, why don't we take this class? Well, we did. I continued. She dropped out. But so that's another part of my journey. But it's like movement just continued to expand and evolve over the ages until maybe 20 years ago when I started dancing Argentine tango. So that was a whole other realm because, well, I was in a dance group for many years. And there it was ensemble dancing, but dancing heart to heart with another partner was a whole different experience, and one to allow yourself to surrender to what you were guided into. So that was quite another learning. So along the way, lots of spiritual studies. With yoga, I was inspired to study Hinduism and Buddhism and some of these ancient teachings that came along or that I was exposed to. And from this, psychology and philosophy, I was always curious about all the ologies, including anthropology. So any opportunity. And while I never finished college, those were the kinds of courses that I was, diving into and studying. So one day I was working in this office job and this woman said, why don't you travel? Well, see, that's the problem with me. Somebody suggests something new to me and I'm thinking, oh, travel. So that's when I started to embark on a whole journey of traveling. I think for about 15 years, I was, I would pick a country and I would study everything about it, the culture, sometimes the language, Spanish or Portuguese, and the political system. And then I ultimately learned how to make my own journey. In other words, most of the times I would travel on my own and even book my own places to go. And those were the days where you didn't have all this online business to do that. But I did that. And so I went to places like Spain, Portugal, Italy, Egypt. That was a big one. 3 weeks. That really transformed my life. And then Mexico many times. So I climbed pyramids and ancient ruins and then Peru and Bolivia. I just, Argentina, it was just a constant, what else can I learn? What else can I experience? So travel was very enlightening and very spiritually and personal growth for me. But along the way, and a lot of these things are sort of coming at the same time. And so I was training in this belly dancing. Okay, we know what that looks like on the stage or at a party. You've seen belly dancers. So I was introduced to a woman who was training to be a movement therapist at Columbia College in Chicago. And so she decided to create a dance company and use that as part of her training, to present. And so I was privileged to be a part of that. And it wasn't just dancing, traditional belly dancing with your all exposed and everything. We did a lot of folk dancing. And then she was so creative that we were doing interpretive movements of ancient Egyptian wall paintings and the kinds of dancers that they had at that time. And so we created a whole series of these movements and dances. And in fact, I was able to, a couple of years ago, take many of the VCRs, and put them online. So now, not only for those of us that were in the troupe, but also for our director, Barbara Cargill, who now, unfortunately, is having dementia. But she's been able, with her husband, to be able to see all the work that she's done and just the lives that have been changed through her movement and her creativity. So, so we formed a not-for-profit, tax-exempt, called the Near East Heritage Dance Theater. And so that's what it is under on YouTube, if anybody is interested. Near East Heritage Dance Theater.
Near East
Theater, yes.
Okay.
So I was teaching at a community college, belly dancing early in the day. You know, whatever's new or up and coming, somehow I gravitate to it. And so that was one of the things. But I was in that company for over 20 years. And then I also along the way became a professional recruiter. And then I thought to myself, well, how does recruiting have to do with movement? But it is the movement of people's lives and careers and helping them find new ways or new potentiality in their career to expand. So then, of course, along came Feng Shui. Okay. And some people might wonder, well, what's that got to do with movement? Well, it really does have a lot to do with movement. It's the movement of energy. And so it's the energy in your environment. So I got interested in because my friend Karen Ross hired a Feng Shui consultant. And I thought, oh, I'm going to do that too. Because I was sort of in my career, not really satisfied, and I wanted to make some shifts and changes. And so anyway, she came in, did this consultation, and then I suddenly became hooked. And so I started studying, and I went to the East Coast and various areas to study with Chinese masters and people that were, and this was popular in, I would say, the mid 1990s and after. So lo and behold, I just found myself not only doing consultations to individuals and businesses, but also teaching at 3 different community colleges, people how to do their own Feng Shui. And I was doing presentations at libraries, many libraries in the area. And I had a slideshow, and it was, so I was having a lot of fun, you know, sharing and helping people to find this in their own environment. And really, while this, you might say, is an external experience, it's really an internal experience because it helps you, when you have the right environment, when it is harmonious, that it is supporting you emotionally and psychologically, as well as spiritually. So that's where harmonious pathways came along. Between that and my life coaching. So life coaching was something I thought, oh, you know, I want to work with people individually. I mean, in a sense, I was doing a little coaching with the professional recruiting, and I still continue to do that. But I wanted to go deeper. And I think that's true of many of the things that I've done is I'm always wanting to dive in deeper. I want to know more. I want to experience more. And of course, I'm also, being a teacher in many of these different areas, I want to teach others. I want to help others. And along the way, and I don't think I've talked about this before, there was the environmental movement, 1990. And I became part of that. So I started a business called Ecology and Economics. I was a little ahead of my time. And I started I had workshops. I was bringing presenters and helping people to really find more peace and harmony with their own environment, and also to help people feel the importance of our environment, that we need to care for it. And I also was producing a newsletter called Ecology and Economics.
Well, what's the economics part?
Yes, that's a good question. Because if you start becoming more ecological, it becomes more economically advantage. So that's the thing that the businesses, and today it is true, those that are streamlining their businesses to make them, it cuts and increases efficiency so that there's less waste. And that's happening all over the world right now. There's many opportunities for that our companies are taking advantage of.
So fast forward and tell us a little bit about what Hanna Somatics is.
Hanna Somatics. Well, first of all, I just want to slip in there. I rest Yoga Nidra, which is a meditation, guided meditation that I teach each week by donation online. And it's another body-centered movement, a body-centered kind of modality. And so I discovered it. And it's a guided deep relaxation and mindfulness meditation that really helps to release negative emotions and thoughts and calms the nervous system. And it helps to create more ease and well-being. So I started this organization called Veterans Restorative Projects. So I was going in with two other women, and we were teaching in the VA system this practice. And we did that up until the pandemic. And then we could not go in anymore, but I continue online. But before this and through much of my adult life, I have been in pain. Even when I was dancing, performing, I had these glitches, these things that would go out of alignment. And I was going into the chiropractor consistently. And then it was one day, a number of years ago, my chiropractor said to me, I want you to stop thinking that you are out of alignment and that instead your muscles are tense. And I'd like you to consider reading this book, Somatics. Okay, something new. So I dove in, read the books, and then I started training in it because I thought I want it for myself, but I'm thinking, I think I could help other people. So, and it was so much in alignment with I Rest Yoga Nidra that I thought, whoa, this is a good marriage between the two. So it's somatics is a term that was coined by Thomas Hanna back in 1976. And it's the study of the body experienced from within. And he focused this on the integration of mind and body. And so Hanna Somatic education essentially is emphasizing retraining our body and brain through voluntary, what he coined pandiculation. And pandiculation is something that all animals do. Cats and dogs, when you see them kind of, squeezing here or there, especially cats are big on that. They move their backs up, and so forth. So this is an involuntary kind of movement for them because it's natural. For some reason, humans, for the most part, have forgotten that, except maybe when we yawn. So it is like a big yawn. And what it does, it contracts into certain muscles. And then as you're contracting, and then as you release, you're lengthening those muscles that you contracted. Because essentially, what happens is any movement we do with hands, our neck, and so forth, our head, we're contracting. And that's what muscles are meant to do. But what happens is when we're hunched over all day looking at the computer or looking at our devices, our posture gets kind of weird, right? And then we're kind of stuck this way. Our body forgets, our brain forgets how to be fully into our harmonious state of alignment. And so so we're using these pendiculations as voluntary movements so that we can all find a release, so that when we go to sleep at night, we're not holding that tension into our sleep and never releasing completely. And I'd like to actually just have you, I'll guide you in one right now. So turn your head slightly to the right, and then shrug your left shoulder towards the back of your head, and just hold it. Just shrugging it and stay in comfort. And just tilt your head slightly up towards the ceiling. And you might notice this might feel a little bit like when you were holding your phone in the crook of your neck. And then very slowly begin to release your shoulder. Slowly feel the lengthening of the muscle. That's your trapezius muscle. And into your neck, and then slowly lengthening out. So that's an example of the kinds of movements we do, but we can do that all over our body. Wherever there's pain and stuckness and tightness, and we can adapt these movements to whatever any particular person's needs are. And so the beauty of this work for me is it's empowering people to take charge of their own physical bodies. And in doing so, they also can feel calmer, more present, because it is about being heightenedly aware as you're doing this. You don't have music in the background. You stay in a quiet space. And it's very much like meditation in that respect, but it's very, this sense of, as Thomas Hanna said, it's that proprioception, that inner sense, feeling from the inside out. And there are many other somatic movements. Yoga is one, which emphasizes more on stretching, where this one is doing a little bit of the opposite in terms of that. So it's very unique, but it's also very empowering. And that's what I truly love about it, because I can teach people on Zoom. I can teach people in person, and no matter how far away they may be. So it relieves pain, it restores posture, and it unlocks lasting mobility and vitality. And that's a real key for me, because I really feel that that my myths are not my myths. My motto is to bust the myth of aging, to help people realize that we don't have to allow ourselves to decline to the very end. We can actually continue to stay mobile, body, mind, and spirit, all the way to the very end.
Very, very fascinating, interesting. I'm definitely going to look at your website. And but you say you don't have to allow your body to decline, and so you're 80, and I'm 83, and Catherine's getting there, and so what's the mindset that you can use? Can you help teach people that to not let their bodies dictate a decline?
Or the diagnosis that, okay, you have arthritis, therefore you're just going to continue to decline in that way. A lot of pain and tension and tightness has to do with just allowing it to continue rather than addressing it as it arises instead of waiting until it's too late. So it's really, I would say, having, what is your purpose in life? How do you really want to feel? How, if you were at let's say you were 70 years old, and a lot of times we're not looking towards the end, are we? We're waiting, no, that's not going to happen to me. It's way out there. It's way out there. But it, there is going to be a certain amount of decline. There's no question about that. But how can we remain optimistic and positive about staying open and curious? I think having that childlike mentality. I like to say, when I would work with my veterans, I'd say, okay, now take off your adult cap and put on your child cap and just be open and curious. And look at the possibilities and potentiality. And because I have worked with people that are much older than me as well, and yet they know the benefits. They feel more vibrant and free after they're doing the movements. And it's about really knowing what your purpose is, how you want to feel and be in your body.
Yes, very good. That's very good. So we always like to ask all of our guests in the few minutes we have left, and that is, how do you think about your own aging? I think I know the answer, but how do you?
Yeah. Well, I don't feel like I'm 80. I don't know what 80 feels like. And I don't think that's true. I think that's true of anyone. Do you feel like your age? Maybe you do. But I guess I'm still in some ways 20. And I remembered a famous neuroscientist at Harvard. She said that this is a few years ago, and she said 60 is the new 80. I mean, 80 is the new 60. I'm sorry, the other way around. So I think we don't have to own an age. We really don't. And I just want to continue to be vibrant and alive. And the more I can do this, first of all, for myself, but also to be able to share others. And guess what? I am learning as I teach others. It's always been the case. It's like sometimes I think, oh yeah, that's my issue too. What am I doing? What am I doing to address that? And so, like recently in a class I taught in person at a community college, and later too, the people said, "Oh, this work is really helping my SI joint." And I thought, "Oh, I'm so happy." And I'm thinking, that's the issue that I have had all these many, many years, and yet I'm still addressing it. Why? Because I think I overstretched it early on. And so, but I have to accept that it may never be perfect, and that's okay. As long as I have tools that I can use to help stay vibrant and alive and curious and continue to grow and learn and be in community with others that do the same.
You just said so beautifully the mission of Women Over 70.
I'm glad we're in alignment here.
We are very much. And listeners, because of your loyalty, our numbers continue to grow. Still, we'd like to see more of you at our monthly online programs. Join Aging Reimagined Circle and participate for no charge. Make your voice heard as together we change the conversation about women aging. And we want to, if you like this podcast, we recommend another, and that's with host Wendy Green, boomer banter, real talk about aging well. She takes you on a journey to explore how to live vibrantly and healthfully with strong relationships and purpose as we age. So Wendy covers topics around financial literacy, mental and physical health, relationships, and purpose. And thanks for listening.